And good evening, greetings and salutations, everyone. Gary Redmond here from Welcome to episode 85 of New York Red Bulls Discussion Group, the podcast. Things are, of course, naturally on a little bit of a downer because of Messi Mania and, of course, the results after that. But despite that, we have a great show for you guys. We're going to talk about basically the match recap between the New York Red Bulls and Inter Miami FC. CF, excuse me. And we're going to, of course, naturally, we're going to preview two big games on the schedule happening this very week. Wednesday is going to take place over in Foxborough. New England Revolution taking on the New York Red Bulls. And then, of course, they're going to travel down on Sunday for Philadelphia Union versus the New York Red. I'll take on the Philadelphia Union. Both games, unfortunately, they're going to have to win. They don't have a choice at this point. We're also going to do a quick little match recap. New Jersey, New York Gotham FC played at Red Bull Arena on Sunday afternoon, as well as New York Red Bulls 2. They took on Chicago Fire 2, and it was a crazy game over at the campus at MSU Soccer Park. Of course, if we're going to talk about a live, after the, before we even get there, of course, we're going to have to, excuse me, my lips are a little tripped up right now. Of course, we're going to have predictions and, of course, live after the game. First of all, if you missed the live show, please don't worry about it. The recording will be available on our YouTube channel and Spotify.com the very next day. You can also check out our previous episodes there as well. This is season 3. If you go to Spotify, you'll find all 3 of us, including this episode, which will be up there, will be uploaded after tonight. And of course, we'll work on, of course, the over the course naturally on our YouTube channel. The rest of the episodes will be there as well. Now, naturally, of course, if you have any questions, comments, and hot takes, suggestions, because after all, this is your show, please do send them our way. We have an email address, rbdgthepodcast@gmail.com. Once again, email address, rbdgthepodcast@gmail.com. And a very special happy birthday shout out to Jennifer Van Voorhees, JVV. Happy birthday, love. I'm hoping right now you're out there celebrating with your friends and family. And of course, we got a whole lot of love for you. So that's, let's talk a little bit, of course, about Messi Mania and the ramifications therein. It was a full house, of course. We were bringing 2 of my wonderful co-hosts, the one and only Carlos Cano and Mark Coates. Gentlemen, I'm afraid to ask you guys how was your weekend, but I'm already know how was it. Elizabeth, like me, I sold my ticket. Okay, and no secret, of course. Basically, I used it to fund my wonderful vacation, which I needed. I'm sure some of you guys have done the same. It was a full house, nevertheless. 26,128. That was a full house. That was the first time I've seen the building that full since it opened. And it was another sellout, when Thierry Henry had his friendly testimonial when half the building was full of Red Bull fans and the other half was Arsenal fans. So overall, guys, I'm going to start with you, Carlos. When the final whistle happened, what was your feeling out of all this? Hey, I'll just leave it to your words. Go ahead.
Guys, we talked about this last week and leading up to it. It wasn't anything we didn't expect. We all said it. We said that if this team couldn't score, they weren't going to win. We said that if they couldn't at least try to hang with this team, they weren't going to win. We said that if Messi came on the field and scored, they weren't going to win. And that's exactly what happened. So, look, I think you have to take a step back and think about it subjectively, objectively. If you remove Messi and everything else, all the other external factors that he brought to the experience the other night, it's a 2-0 loss that we're bummed about because we know this team sucks. So what are we really upset about? We're upset that Messi drew the crowd that we knew he was going to bring in.
Of course.
We're upset because They're selling Messi merchandise in the Red Bull shop, which has nothing to do with the front office.
And yet people were so pissed about that, but more on
I
that
mean,
later.
what again? Look, I get it, right? And I'm also, and I've said this consistently. I'm a huge Messi fan. Messi, I will tell my kids and my grandkids and hopefully my great grandkids that I saw the greatest soccer player of all time play.
Same.
Right? That I rooted for him when he was at Barcelona, and that at some point I'll get to see him live in living color because I too sold my ticket, and I'm not mad about it. Right? But when knowing that he was playing the Red Bulls, that the fandom went out the window. I'm rooting for my club. But again, everything that we suspected, everything that we said, that we predicted is exactly what was. So, yeah, you can be disappointed, but this outrage, and I was saying it to my wife the other day, by the time we get to Wednesday and we have to go up to New England to play the Revs, we have to be away, and we never have a good time going up to New England anyway. The only thing I take solace in is that for whatever crazy reason this season, we've sort of had New England's number. So I'm actually optimistic about Wednesday. But by the time we get there, no one's going to care about what happened over the weekend. That's lost true. The game. I mean, again, this team stinks. There's no hiding that. So what are we really upset about? I mean, that's the way I look at it. And I know that's probably not the popular take, but this team stinks. We had to hang. We didn't. Messi came in and added insult to injury and scored what Miguel in our banter earlier today calls a golazo. I don't think it's a golazo. I think it's certainly artwork in the form of
the pass was
play.
It was a tap in, but the pass leading up to it was fantastic.
How Messi stays vertical and makes the play in the end. But everything that we expected, everything that I expected and that we shared in the group and in the podcast and all of that is exactly what happened. This team is not good. There's no denying that. There's no sugarcoating that. There's no hiding it.
Nope.
I felt that we had a chance to, I mean, and we'll probably get into this in a little bit and I'll get off my soapbox, but we had a chance until Messi came on the field. And I knew that once Messi hit the pitch, that was it. Like there was no chance that we were either going to at least make the comeback to draw, much less even if they capitalized on the lead, which they did, that we were going to make a 2-goal comeback. This team's not good.
Mark, your words.
There are no words. I watched the first half, and I took a quick break while I was doing the thread, and I said to my wife,
"Fantastic work, by the way."
Thank you. We're gonna lose. I said he's gonna come in and we're gonna lose. That's what's gonna happen. And I watched the body language of all of our players the moment he took the pitch. I said, we're done. At least at 1-0, we stood a chance of maybe getting a break, catching them off guard, and getting a goal. But once they stuffed 5 in the back, we were done. We weren't getting near the goal. And it was absolutely criminal. The last 15 minutes, I'm listening to Red Bull Radio, not the Apple broadcast, and listening to Harmon and Jolly, just like the two of them besides themselves, asking why are these guys just standing there? Nobody's moving off the ball. Nobody's trying to get open. It's as if everybody just gave up. It's like, he's coming in, and yet for 10 minutes while he's warming up, while he's putting on the jersey, nobody's trying. And Omir misses a shot he should have buried. All right. Barlow takes a good shot, but it's weak. All right. Do you fault him? Everybody's going to blame him. The pass that Omir made.
Everyone's going to blame for everything bad that happens to their lives. He's the it guy. Okay, so
right. So
you can't blame him. He was the only one playing defense on the Messi goal.
Pretty much.
Yeah, he was.
which is something.
Yeah. So it was. But to watch Omir flub the pass, Barlow's wide open. Now everybody can say, all right, fine, he gets the pass to Barlow, he doesn't score. Barlow had a wide open net. The keeper was way out of position. Barlow would have had a Messi type tap in. We should have been up 2-0 at halftime. Should have been. And everybody said it. We've said it 1,000 times amongst ourselves on the podcast. It's been said in social media. We can't finish. Even the broadcasters say we can't finish. People talk about how we have the least amount of goals. And, how can we be this bad? And you look at the team that was worse than us, goals per game, 2009. And I know Garry mentioned that last week when he was doing his report up from East Hanover. We suck that bad. All right. There's no sugarcoating it. We're that bad. Our defense has been great for the most part. Look, if you only let in
honestly,
one goal,
that's the only bright spot. The only bright spot.
It kills me though to sit and watch, and it's like I'm screaming at the TV, like, come on, do something. Have some self-respect. At least if we had scored a goal, even if we lose 2-1, we got on the board. We made an effort, but these guys weren't doing anything, and part of it's on the team. Part of it's on our coach. We can blame the front office. Yeah. Because as we were discussing earlier, if you look at the history of our designated players since Danny Royer, we haven't brought anybody in who's worth a damn.
No.
And I believe the term you used, return on investment. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that too, because Absolutely. We've had no return on investment, not for 5 years. Yeah, it was tough. It was really tough.
Of course, naturally, it's very hard for us to actually go back and review the goals that happened that evening. But of course, we're contractually obligated to do so. So apologies in advance. Of course, the first goal was scored, of course, by Diego Gomez. And while you're watching this replay, count how many people were standing still during the first goal.
Floating it in, Coronel punching it clear. Taylor. Here is Noah Allen. Gomez settles, scores! Messi loves it from the bench. The 20-year-old Diego
Robert Taylor. Cornell deals with the first ball in. The second phase of defending a set piece. Deliver it wide. Everybody from the New York Red Bulls worried about pushing the line forward, but forgetting about the space behind them. Diego Gomez, first touch, second one in the back of the net. No Lionel Messi, no Busquets, no problem. Inter Miami 1, New York Red Bulls 0.
I know most people really despise Taylor Twellman, but he pretty much painted a terrific picture. There was a guy who was just standing around, and I'm not sure why would anybody in the box would give that man that much space to begin with. And that was his first goal for Inter Miami, period. His very first goal ever. And the fact that nobody bodied that kid all by himself, I mean, he deserved that goal because you basically gave it to him. And it to a lot of fans, they were like stunned, like, wait a minute. Okay, it's bad enough that we know that Messi is going to come off the bench and hit a home run. But you guys couldn't play defense, hard for about maybe 85 minutes or so. But it was kind of surreal. The reason why I said that to my girlfriend was kind of surreal because, the place was packed. Okay, yes, bathroom lines were long and everything else. But within 15 minutes after kickoff, what did you hear? We want Messi. And the chant continued pretty much throughout the entire game. These were the folks that paid hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, to sit in that seat so they can able to see their hero from, 15 decks up from the upper deck, whatever the case may be, they were there. And then, of course, in the 60th minute, Messi appeared to probably what was probably the most loudest ovation I had probably ever heard in the arena going there. And I'm talking about going back near what's it now? 12 years now since Red Bull Arena's been open, and I never heard anyone stepping on the field, and having that type of an ovation. And of course, in the 89th minute, those fans who wanted Messi were duly rewarded.
From Burke finds Messi. Robinson leaves, Busquets over to Jordi Alba, what a touch! Messi to his right, he keeps it on his left, of course. Oh, what a ball to Kramaski! Oh! And to Messi!
This is one of the most ridiculous balls I've ever seen. Look at that ball into Kramaski, and all the Red Bull defenders caught ball watching, worried about the ball in behind. Just an absolute show. Vision, pace of pass, continuously running, finishing the play off. Lionel Messi in Leagues Cup put on a show, and in 35 minutes tonight just gave New York City one of the best goals you will ever see. What a privilege.
Unfortunately, that was not New York City, Taylor. It was Harrison, New Jersey. But
Taylor
hey,
Twelman can't.
it just goes to show you that
himself.
broadcasters can be fans too.
He cannot help himself. It is ridiculous, and it is clearly at this point they're giving him on the Apple TV side. They're giving him all of the Miami games so that they have, their A, if you want to call it that, their A team on Apple TV Plus covering Messi. Because that's what they're doing on the Spanish broadcast side, is they have Jose Hernandez and Diego Valeri and Eduardo Vizcayar. They're the ones that are covering, and that's the A team on the Spanish side, who are much more objective than Twelman and company.
They?
I will. They 1,000%.
Okay, I agree with you.
Because somebody's fanboy was showing on Saturday.
I mean, like I
said,
said,
and it wasn't Miguel.
Gonna be fans.
No, it wasn't Miguel.
I mean, we look at the course of the final score. Gomez on the 37th minute, Messi in the 89th. 2-0 going to the guys in the pink team. The loss is not the end of the world per se, and I'll explain that a little bit. But if you take a look at the stats, guys, possession 50% each, 13 shots, 4 on goal for the Red Bulls, 6-3 for Miami. It when you look at that, it looks like, if you look at that, it looks like a close game, but it was anything but. And I hate to say this, probably the reason why I was a little lost for words during the intro, because as much as I pain for me to say this, and I'm going to have to do this, because I'm going to have to grind my axe. Look, we talked about this last week, right? Every last one of you in the live audience know that we all this was going to be a tough assignment. Okay, we knew that this was going to be a loss unless the Red Bulls do something that, that's what they were supposed to do. Now, if you're a Messi stan and if you paid all that moolah to get the seat in our wonderful little cathedral to see your hero, congrats. You win for you win. But those of us that sold those tickets for whatever reason, we can't really, can't place, say loyalty because, hey, some people have financial constraints. They said, hey, they saw an opportunity to make some money. They sold the tickets. Congrats. You win. But if you are a New York Red Bull fan that expected to see the team play with a little bit of sense of, pride, you lost along with your squad. After the game, we tried or attempted to interview Sean Nealis after the game. The boy looked dejected, like he didn't want to be there in front of the press. Well, he's a professional athlete. He's a big boy. He's the team's captain. That's his job. But he looked like somebody just grabbed their family and shot him down, and he was forced to watch. Okay. Fans were understandably and justifiably heated after that match. And remember how I set that up in the pregame, that one team was in last place, another team is fighting for their playoff lives. Okay, which team did you guys saw Saturday night? It certainly wasn't the Red Bulls, because on both goals, they stood like statues. Didn't foul anybody, didn't body anybody, didn't contest any balls. I mean, the first goal was on a set piece, a free kick. Okay, a set piece. gave that guy all that time and space to turn around, and it's buried it in the back of the net. Both goals I've seen Carlos Coronel throw up his hand saying, what in the are you guys going to defend anybody tonight? If that's not the case, I can just go stand in the corner and watch you guys all flail away. And people were upset. I mean, I want to try to find something to defend this team, but I can't and I won't. And because after the game, even me, a fan, was pissed. I was like, wow, I expected the team to be fighting. Even if they went down fighting, guys, it would have been some sort of like a badge of honor. Okay, we took on Messi. We fought like hell, held them to a draw. I would have been happy with that. I would have been over the moon over that. But you didn't score, but neither did they. Hey, we disappointed a lot of fans. Ha, sucks to be you. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And for a team that's fighting for a spot in the playoffs, you played anything but. And that is a microcosm of what this organization is dealing with right now. I mean, they did a little quick poll before the podcast. Some of you guys have answered, and thank you very much for that. 55% of you said that the overall view of the team is somewhat negative. 28% of you totally negative. There was a small sliver of people who were totally positive. The group totally positive. 2%. That's it.
And we'd like to know what you're drinking.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, this franchise has fallen and has broken the fan base. They're in a mood where it's an all-time low. Okay. My good friend who watched the game, from Florida, said that sounded like a home game up there. He's not wrong. I told him everything that went down from start to finish, and he said it best. I'm ashamed to be a New Yorker. I'm ashamed. And anybody who doesn't agree with me are fools. Y'all should be yelling at this team right now. In fact, if I was a sporting director, I'd pull these guys in the room and say, you know what? We're fighting for the playoffs. I don't ever want to see you guys do that again if you want to if you want to receive a paycheck. Because that was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. And I'm basically saying it as a Red Bull fan, for Red Bull fans. That was unacceptable. Yes, I understand you're playing against the GOAT. Yes, I'm sure that the man that was known as the magisterial one, put another highlight and posterized our defense, which was supposed to be allegedly fourth best in the league. Did it look like we played like the fourth best in the league to you? I didn't. You just basically gave everyone a reason to want to look at and hoping and praying for someone to come in and buy this team because there was no fight, no spirit, no nothing. And now you are forced to do something that you have not done only once this season, and that is win a game on the road. Now you got to go up to New England. Good luck with that. It's been a while since we won a game in Foxborough. Tell me, when's the last time we won a game in Philly? Their guys are next. One's going to hit us with the shovel. The other team is going to bury us. And that will be the end of 2023. Don't think that can happen? Go Axe City.
Yeah, well,
last time we played them, they were like, oh, we're going to win 10 games. We have to win 10 games. What did they do? Lose the first 2. Their playoff chances are in life support. And at this point, the Red Bulls are looking to join them. Now, not making the playoffs may be a great thing. I mean, say, hey, maybe it'll kick some butt. I doubt that. Because even a loss like this, an unacceptable one, in front of the fans who did show up. Yes, I'm talking about those who did not sold their tickets, who wanted to get, represent their squad, was done a major disservice. Major.
You notice we're not arguing with you.
I mean, ridiculous.
Listen, I don't understand. And again, you guys know I went to the 2 game on Sunday, and I saw Troy Lesane, I saw Dennis Hamlet, and I saw Joachim Snyder, and they were smiling, and I'm thinking to myself, none of you three have a damn thing to smile about. I don't know what you're happy about. Maybe that you're still getting a paycheck, because obviously you're not doing your jobs. I have no idea. I was thinking about doing the show today. I cannot for the life of me figure out why we were in a 4-1-4-1. I can't. This is the first time we're going to roll this out, and we have Elias Manuel as our striker. He comes out. Tom Barlow's our striker. Neither one of these guys are capable of putting the ball in the back of the net consistently. Why do you have them up as strikers?
It's very simple, because everybody, the better option, were injured.
Yeah. Well, like I said, why are we in that position?
I mean, I responded to somebody asking the very same question and said, what was Troy Lesane supposed to do? Conjure up healthy strikers with a mere flick of his wrist?
But
he's got to deal with that.
But the thing that like I said, if we're going to try something new, this is the game you're going to try to pop this on someone? These guys should be able to go 90 minutes. There's no reason why Manuel and Barlow couldn't go 90 minutes. I mean, we know Tom's got the wheels for it. Maybe Manuel doesn't. So you give him 60, 70 minutes. Sub in Burke if you have to. They subbed in the new kid. He ran around. I don't think he did much of anything. We've only got him on loan for another 7 games or 8 games, whatever we have left.
Yeah. And then
what was the point of even signing him? Yeah. What was it? We don't even have the option to buy him. He's just here on loan.
Yeah. He's just here for a cup of coffee, and then back to his club he goes. That's it. Right. That's the arrangement.
Because he's 4th or 5th in the depth charts on his team. So they sent him here. It makes no sense. And watching, and I don't know how many times I heard it said over the course of the game, Luquinhas was getting free, but why is he playing on the left side? The man should be playing as a 10. He's got the ability to move the ball around and be creative and service the ball in. Why do you have him on the left side? And then you've got Tolkien playing on the other side.
That's another thing.
He's sending in balls, but there's nobody there to get on them. How many times do we watch the ball just sail over 8 or 12 heads? And the one thing I'll say before we hit our break, we had 10 corners. 10. Right. Who's the worst ranked team in MLS for giving up goals on set pieces? Miami. So explain to me, how did we get 10 corners and we barely got a shot on goal from those 10 corners? How? Were they just that good Saturday night, or were we just that bad? Or maybe it was a combination of the two, because we look like garbage. We just, like I said, Vincent's absolutely 100% right. The last time we had pride in this team, and we could say that the guys on the team shared that pride and played with that pride, was 2018.
You had, the guys that we had in the roster were, for the lack of a better word, they were not quality, okay, but they were ballers, okay, and that's why the fans loved them, because every time they stepped on the pitch, it was a do or die attitude, and everybody played hard like a man, to a man. And so that's, and it was fun to watch, to see that hustle, to see that, that attitude of, well, no, you're not going to beat us today. You're not going to beat us ever. And then they played together. Now, I would love for us to take everyone on the time machine and zip us back to 2013, grab Jesse Marsh and go, don't you think about taking that exam and heading off to Philadelphia. You got a job to do. You got a job to finish. And I will hold him to that until to my dying day. But here we are. And I guess the question that's going to come, where is this team going? We haven't received an answer from Joachim Schneider since he walked in the building. It's been 111 days since he actually spoke to the press. Think about that for a second. And as for, and I can't even, can't get his name out. And, he's a zombie. That's basically all I have to say to this guy. It's just crazy. And for the fan base to endure this, it hurts. It really is. It really does. I'm hurting for all of you. And you're right, Lisa. I would not knock anyone for selling your seats. I did. Okay. Hey, I used it to pay my vacation. Thank you very much. And plus, it was just one game. That's it. Most of the tickets I give away to most of y'all. Hey, I'm in the press box. I don't necessarily need them for the year, unless I'm bringing in with family and friends. But it's even those players and like Mike Grella, Lloyd Sam, Wright Phillips, Lawrence. They balled for the badge. We don't have these guys. I mean, I like these guys. They're doing okay. They're doing the best they can. But what the fans are asking for on a consistent basis, they're not getting it. They're certainly not getting it this season, and they haven't been getting it for the last 3. And that is the story, of course, on this team. Of course, we're going to talk about the up 2 game, the following 2 games on Wednesday night. One that's shaping up to be a very important one that it's something that they need to have, and of course on Sunday, over in Chester. But before we do that, we're going to take a break, thankfully, because we need to cool our jets a little bit. Week 28 of the MLS schedule. Here are the final scores, and we'll see you after the break in 30 seconds. All right, now that Messi Mania is done and dusted, our scene now shifts up to the wonderful place up in Foxborough, home, of course, to the New England Patriots, 6-time NFL champions, and, of course, the New England Revolution, who are 5-time MLS Cup finalists. They haven't won the thing just like us, but they've been the trip 5 times, so they're a little better than us. Now, this is where Carlos comes in. He's going to school you kids on why this particular match has some playoff implication importance to that. Carlos, stage is yours.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, the Red Bulls, whether we want to think about that or not, they're still, in contention. They're obviously not mathematically eliminated by any stretch. The challenge obviously becomes the next 3 games for this squad are all road games. So they'll start this road trip on Wednesday. They'll head up to Gillette Stadium, obviously all on MLS Season Pass, of course, on Apple TV. Huge key here, no Gustavo Bo for this matchup. So that should certainly play as an advantage for the Red Bulls. And as I alluded to earlier, for whatever crazy reason this season, when we've seen the Revs, we've been able to really hang with them. And they've been some of our better games this season against the Revolution. So, there's that to consider. And not to mention that the Revs are coming off of a loss. They just lost to Montreal. And so, if anything, it is the perfect opportunity to be able to capitalize on them. As we know, we saw the Revs during Leagues Cup. We were able to capitalize on that. The last time we played the Revs was back in July, where we beat them 2-1. So again, there is no reason to think that we shouldn't get some kind of a result, but it will certainly require a huge bounce back performance from this squad on Wednesday night up in Foxborough.
Offline. Just to add what Carl said, if you could take a look at the standings right now, New England is in second place in the East with 43 points. The Red Bulls are sitting also outside and looking in with 29 and 11th place. Now, all they need is basically a win, and they will literally tie Chicago, provided if they beat their team, win their game. So if you look at the standings, other than New England, is Orlando in third, Columbus in fourth, Atlanta at sixth, Nashville, Montreal, Chicago, DC, then us. And each of these teams are basically literally 4 points from one another. So it's going to get tight down the stretch. Now, the question will be is who would want it more? It almost looks like if you go past seventh place mark, nobody wants to get into playoffs, and nobody wants to win the conference. I mean, forget the guys up top. They're going to cruise the rest of the way. No one's going to catch Cincinnati at this at this stage of the game. But it's looking a little excitement at this point, and then this is where the fans are basically trying to will this team over the line, because if you guys have caught the New York Times article, there was an article in New York Times about playoff streaks. We're one of them. 13 straight appearances in the playoffs. Yes, we know what happens after we get there, historically, but that's something, to have, there's a feather on your cap, and being one of the only teams with the longest playoff streaks in major sports. Like to see them do it a 14th time, but it's not up to us, it's up to them. So, Mark, tactically, okay, you got New England on Wednesday. We know it's a very tough sled, even though you don't have, you don't have their, your keeper. He's been sold. He's on his way, to Europe. No Gustavo Bo. It's setting up nicely, for them to actually steal 3 points. But the question and the concern is, okay, which Red Bull team are we going to see? Are we going to see the team that we saw lay a big fat goose egg on Saturday night, or we're going to see a team that's really fighting for their playoff lives?
I honestly, I think at this point we have to hope that the guys that played the first couple of games in the Leagues Cup, they were a fun bunch to watch. I mean, and again, I think a lot of us just sort of took the Leagues Cup as, oh yeah, this is going to be something we'll do for the summer. It's going to be like a break for us from the MLS schedule. And suddenly we're all, oh, wow, we won, and we beat New England. So the question becomes, can we go up there, play on the turf, and find a way to steal 3 points? And it's going to be tough because, again, we don't know. The last I had heard was that while Van Zier is technically not injured, they had held him back because they wanted to give him enough time to fully feel like he's going to be back and be able to start and go. And that could be, games. That may not just be a week. And again, I think, between the three of us, I'm sure we've all had a hamstring pull at some point in time.
I did. Trust me, they're not easy to heal.
No, and it's not something you could even put a timetable on, because you can't say, oh, he should be good in 2 weeks. You don't know how long it's going to take him to come back. So, that leaves us with very little in the way of options up top. Do we play another gritty game, somehow sneak out with a 1-0 win? Maybe. I mean, obviously, we're all hoping.
I think that's what folks want to see, right? And they would like to see something,
Something. After what just went down Saturday, I think the fan base wants to see these guys go out and play their hearts out. And even if, like I said, if it's a 1-0 win, it's a win. We come home with 3 points. Now, granted, we're not going home because, as you mentioned, we're going to be traveling down the turnpike, and we're going to be playing in Philly, in Chester. And we've the last, 10, 11 matches we've played against them, we have not won. We haven't won against them in years, and God knows, I don't remember the last time we beat them in Philly. I mean, what are the chances we're going to actually pull both of those off? We could bounce back. I think we probably stand a better chance of pulling off a win up in Foxborough, and maybe if we're lucky, we get out of Chester with a point. I don't think this team has it in it. And like you said, All these teams are stacked up. The question becomes, do we have enough to get it going and keep it going and make ninth place? Because we're not getting much above that if we do. And the other part of that, it's the other side of the coin. What happens if we don't make the playoffs? Because a lot of people, and we were sharing a quote from earlier today about the finger being pointed at Red Bull Global. If they're going to see all of the commentary that's going on with this team, the amount of people that are upset over what's going on, the lack of attendance overall, there's part of me that thinks that when the renewals hit and the deadline hit at the beginning of this month, I have a feeling that a lot of people did not renew. And that is what Mark the Grand Prix sees. Because he's the dollars and cents guy. He has nothing to do with what's on the field. He has everything to do with who's in the stands. How much merchandise we're selling and how much we're getting on those concessions.
Well, you can't claim to be a big club and a successful club, off the field when every match day you're seeing, acres and acres of empty blue seats, dotting the arena. So if you're the president and general manager, your feet are going to be held to the fire, if not by the folks at Red Bull Global, but certainly by the fans, because they're basically telling the club, you want us to come out and root for the boys, but give us a reason. Because right now you're not giving us a reason. You're not giving us, I hate to say that, but this is New York, which is a very large market. Of course, you do have sports fans, but basically they're not, for the casual set, they're not there really to root for the team. They want to be entertained. And that's what happened on Saturday night. They were looking for entertainment and got it, especially if they're going to, pay a premium price for it. That's the same thing, with the Knicks, the Rangers. I'd say the slight exception would be the Jets and the Giants. And the court, and the Islanders, they're hardcore fans. It's a niche sport. Soccer can fit into that niche, but you have to do something that's very difficult to do. And that is to sustain, not only attain a consistent, competitive team year in and year out. For me, trying to win a championship every year with this particular league and the way it's set up is hard, if not impossible. But if you stay within shouting distance of winning a championship, where it's a matter of if, not when, I think you're going to see much more of a better turnout, because that's why you come to the games, because you don't know what you're going to get, but at least they're going to make that move. Now, for those of you who missed it, the Grand Prix made a statement saying that this team starting next season was going to start spending on better players. Well, I hate to say this, but I I'll believe it when I see it. Fans have heard this before, and and to be truthful, for a lot of folks that may think that, they've never spent, Red Bulls are too cheap. Well, unfortunately, they did. They have spent on players. If you really pay attention to the money was thrown around to some of these guys like Van Zier, like the K word, of course,
you can say Kamala.
Kamala. They spent $5,000 on him. They spent $5,000 on Van Zier. They spent, I believe, $2 million on the Golden Boy that Dennis Hamlet said, okay, he was going to be the next one. I think they say basically he was the next one. What he couldn't even crack. He couldn't even crack the first team. Okay, but you spent $2 million on that guy, so off he went. So this is what I mean about return of investment, because if you're spending that money and you're getting a positive return of investment, we were talking about a different team, and it certainly wouldn't be in 11th place. However, most of the signings of the money that they spent have been on a negative return on investment. Nothing was happening. They were all busts. If you take away Lewis Morgan and maybe Lukinis, everybody else, garbage. Okay. which is probably the reason why folks are scratching their head and wondering why Schneider, especially Hamlet, still got their jobs. Because if you're going to spend that type of dough and the team doesn't go anywhere, I don't know, guys. Carlos, Mark, I would lose my job if that was the case. I mean, they would just simply they would pack my bags for me and kick me, and kick me out the building. Garry, you suck. Get out. I mean, great guy, but as a sporting director, your pants. Have a nice day. We'll get somebody else. And this is what the fans are probably wondering, like, wait a minute. Okay, there was a time we used to, historically, all one has to do is dial up, metrofanatic.com, and you can see superstar after superstar after superstar after superstar, including Thierry Henry, and some guys that that you probably never heard of, but they're local heroes. The team has spent money bringing them in and wearing their jerseys, but no cup to show for it. This is what I mean by return on investment. But
that's why I said the last guy we spent money on that actually did something worthwhile was Danny Roy. You had Kaku, Jorgensen. Luquinhas, he's had his moments. Van Zier has made nothing but a mess of his own season this year. Right? Started off slow.
He's had a season he'd like to forget, honestly.
Well, I think we'd all like to forget that he was brought in. I mean, he's had a couple of goals. All right. Klamala, he had a couple of shining moments, mostly from the penalty spot. Other than that, really not much from the run of play. These were just not the guys that we had hoped for. I think somebody that we all know, I won't drop names, but he mentioned to me while we were having a conversation one time that the front office still thinks that they're going to find another BWP by dumpster diving, going to the third division, fourth division, finding someone who's riding the bench that they think is a diamond in the rough. All right. And that's not to say that Bradley was sitting and rotting, but we got him because we signed his brother Sean. They were a package deal. Okay.
That is true.
And as a result, Bradley
and received a blessing from Ian Wright. So there you go.
Yeah. But you had Bradley playing next to one of the greats of our time, Henry. Okay. He got the chance to work with a master. Who's the master that our young kids get to work next to now? Nobody. You look at why Inter Miami's playing so much better. Look at who they brought in. And it's not just Messi, obviously.
No.
They brought in a package.
Jordi Alba. They brought in, Busquets. And they're teaching those guys how to play ball.
And these guys, you watch them
Been there, done that.
You watch these guys marking players. It changes the whole mindset. I think we had joked earlier in the week, and I had said, I'd seen it put somewhere that somebody said they could win US Open Cup, they could win the Leagues Cup, and they possibly could still get the wooden spoon. We might end up with the wooden spoon, but I don't think we can drop enough points to earn it. But it's amazing to see that now. Granted, they've got to basically win out the season and have a lot of help from all the people in front of them.
By the way, they got 2 games in hand. They got 12 games. So it's feasible. I'm not saying it can be done,
right?
But a lot of things have to happen.
Yeah.
A lot of teams ahead of him would have to go on a dive, and I mean lose every single game left in their schedule.
Well, that's tough. A lot of us are
for that to happen.
Yeah. But it's not beyond the realm of possibility that they could make the playoffs. We joked around about the NBA season this year. Who's the 9th place team in the West? They went to the finals.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want Miami to be the 9th place team in the Eastern Conference this year? I don't care if you're Cincinnati. I don't care if you're Orlando, Philadelphia. You don't want Inter Miami making the playoffs. You just don't.
No.
Because nobody wants to have to face that team. That team is completely different with 3 guys added. They're not anywhere near as bad as they were. So
no. I said this during the pregame. I said they're a much different team coming in the building than they were when we last faced them down in Miami.
Yeah.
Everyone
So,
agreed they were a
yeah.
lousy side. Then when you add those three, and when you add three superstars to
Difference
the roster,
makers. Yeah.
difference makers at that, okay, all of a sudden, they're a powerhouse. They have the ability to be a powerhouse squad. Are they?
Right.
Well, we'll see.
Well,
Okay,
they
but
look,
if you think they're insufferable this year, wait till next year.
yeah, they play a full season like that, and everybody's going to be crying. It's
Everyone's going to get their feelings hurt.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
Well, unless to bring it back to where we started this whole thing with the wonderful people that run our organization. If they're really true to their word, and they're going to spend money and sign guys, they obviously have to bring in someone who is already a quality player, somebody who is going to be a difference maker, not a project. We can't bring in another project. No, and Lisa's absolutely right. His first season was not the greatest, but he was learning. And Tom hit it on the head right there. I mean, they went out, they signed the guys they wanted, and look what they've done. 9 straight wins. And that's not to be taken lightly. Any team across all competitions to win 9 straight, I think we did it in 2018. But again, that was that team, and Dax, Sasha, even Alex Muil. All right, everybody teased him. We jokingly called him our GOAT. He was our GOAT. I mean, that he could play pretty much anywhere you wanted him to play, and he would.
Telling people forget the fact that he's going to be able to score past the bar, in a whorehouse, but the man can know how to. Again, the man's got shutdown ability, and he was able to shut down a lot of guys and keep goals from going in. And people forget about that, but
and we had Felipe.
People look at his position and goes, "Well, he should be scoring more." Should they?
He would come in the last 25, 30 minutes of a game, and you knew the game was sealed. He was like a closer.
Yeah.
When he would, and people didn't think that of him, but they didn't realize that was. And that's the role Barlow should be playing. He should not be starting. He's starting because of injury and lack of depth.
Correct.
And everybody's, can.
As I said before, people complain about that. It's like, well, what is Troy Lesesne supposed to do? He looks to his left. He looks to his right on the bench.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there. Is it his fault? Or
he's out of options.
Right. Or is it the fault of the guy who helped him build this team? Now, remember, he had no say in building the team. He comes into place in place of the guy that he replaced, okay, who openly, if I remember correctly, not once but twice, openly complained about, hey, I don't have guys that make a difference, until somebody from the front office told him to shut up. So he coached like he was unhappy. Now he's in a much better situation. Yeah, he's a failure here for the New York Red Bulls, but over in Salzburg, he's doing quite well, because in Salzburg they gave him what he needed, and they're going to give him what he needed, which points the fingers right back at the people who are running this franchise. And whenever I hear statements from the Grand Prix saying, "Okay, we're going to go out and spend money on better ballers," I have to, wince a little bit, because my question would be to the Grand Prix and everybody else has gotten. Does the club have your back on that? Does the front office have your back on that? I know that you're just a business guy. You're not on the sporting side, but on the sporting side, I don't see them really. Unfortunately, I don't see them really making a play for that, and that's going to be rough. For everyone involved. Not everyone's on the same page. Carlos, I know you talked about this before, about the organization and everything else, and we talked about this repeatedly. My question to you is quite simple. What has to be done in order to right the ship? Because from what I'm looking at a ship going in circles with no rudder.
Look, I mean, I think regardless of the circumstances, it's always game by game, right? If you're talking about what's left of the season, it's game to game, and you hope that this coaching staff can put together and execute, not execute, but put together a game plan that these players can go ahead and execute, and that they're going to put, effort into it, obviously. Mid to long term, look, I don't think Marc de Grand Prix makes a statement like that if he doesn't have something that he knows that obviously he's not going to share with the public to back it up, right? Like, you don't make a statement like that makes, I don't want to say headlines, but it was certainly well shared, throughout social media and whatnot. That, the Red Bulls rarely get any coverage on NJ.com, and they did when de Grand Prix came out and said that, about spending, money and doing things differently and whatnot. So, again, you don't make a statement like that unless you can back it up. But like I've said before, at this point, talk's cheap.
Yeah.
Go out and do something. Obviously, we know the summer window's, basically done for at this point. So when the season's over, regardless of how it ends up one way or another, go out in the winter and do what you said you're going to do. If you're going to spend money,
be the most anticipated off season we've had in a very long time. I mean, all eyes are going to be looking at this club like, okay, you made the statement, let's see you back it up. For the fan base's sake, whoever it's left at this point, and for that organization's sake, they need to step it up, because now everyone is chirping, and it's not just the fan base, it's the commissioner too. And which is kind of weird because which is kind of weird because it's him and the league really was doing a number on the Red Bulls of handcuffing these guys back in the day when they really wanted to go out and get ballers, and they were told to, follow the procedures and everything, and getting their hands slapped, publicly left and right. But that's another discussion for another day. Let's follow up, of course, on Gotham, New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC, and Racing Louisville. There were a Red Bull Arena in front of 4,231 friends and family. The ladies ran around for 90 minutes plus, and nobody scored. Both teams received a point. Now, that's not a bad thing, for Gotham FC, because according to the table, they're still in fourth place. They're still within distance. They broke the one-game losing streak by getting a draw. Their next game, of course, is versus the North Carolina Courage, and that'll take place next week. Meanwhile, over at the campus, and this is where Mark Coates can testify for that, it was a barn burner, 9 goals between both teams, and the Red Bulls came up the winners 5-4. Kasule with 2 goals, the Bufu, Carmona, and everybody else. But what killed me, Coach, who was the silly person with the red card late in the game?
That was the result of the new MLS Next Pro rules for time wasting.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
If you don't take the free kick or don't do a throw in within a certain amount of time, the referee can yellow card you. This referee, previously, the gentleman I was spending the evening with, we acknowledged the fact that we had previously seen this referee once before, and if you looked at the graphic, you saw that the Red Bulls had 25 cards or something. I mean, it was insane. It was absolutely insane. The number of fouls that were called, yellow cards were handed out. Yeah, and then to get a red card at the end of the game, for time wasting. The Chicago 2 goalkeeper was literally counting how long our goalkeeper Meyer had the ball in his hand until he was actually going to put it in play. And then yelling and screaming about the fact that on a goal kick, he had chosen to put it initially on his right side, picks the ball up and walks over and puts it on his left side of the goal. And the goalkeeper is screaming all the way up the field.
Gamesmanship, y'all.
Yeah, it's just like, that's been going on forever.
That's new.
You 12 teams, so we employ the same. You'll leave in 3-1. Yeah. I used to tell my son was my goalkeeper. I'd say, Matty, don't put the ball down, put it down, but then pick it up, move it to the other side of the goal, and do you goal kick from the other side? You know, because it wastes 30 seconds.
Mm.
And when you're holding on to a lead, do you really want to put the ball back in play? No, you want the ball sitting still as long as possible. I showed up just a little after halftime. When I left the house, I look like this because I am exhausted. I've put in more hours than I can imagine at work in the last 3 weeks.
Appreciate you, man.
I could not believe it was 2-2 at halftime. And when I arrived, it was 4-2.
Right. Yeah.
And then it was 4-3. And then by the time I got in, it was 5-3. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, can you believe this? And I watched the second half. They scored once. That was the end of the scoring. And then just the bickering back and forth. And the rules are, like I said, very interesting in MLS Next Pro. But if you are substituted off, you have to leave the field within 30 seconds. So if you're on the far side, you need to leave. And it was interesting talking to a couple of the fans and saying, well, why? I said, as a coach, you would look when you were going to do a substitution, especially in a game late when you're leading. You look for the player furthest away from midfield. That's the guy that you decide. Yes, Valencia. And it was so funny. Like I said, watching this ref constantly reach into into her pocket and yellow cards. It was like the Oprah show. And it was the same. It was the same thing last year when we watched her referee another one of the 2 games last year. There were so many yellows handed out. I think that was the game where, if I believe, I'd have to go back and look. I think both teams last year ended the game 9v9 because 4 players, 2 for each team, got second yellows and were red carded off. It was that crazy a game. And it wasn't like these guys were out of control. We've seen games where guys have gotten physical. There's altercation.
Nations, right. Yeah.
There was nothing like this in this game. It was just, it was something.
It was
else.
just a track meet from what I saw.
But it was, I watched the first half here. Like I said, as soon as we hit halftime, I hopped in the car, drove over there, and I showed up, and it's 52 minutes on the board when I'm driving in. And I'm like, I missed 2 goals. And then by the time I parked, there's a 3rd goal. By the time I went, 4 goals in a matter of 10 minutes. It was just
a lot of goals. Yeah, I saw the game. It was a lot of goals.
It was. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a nice night. And before we end, I'm going to keep pumping this in the group. Anybody who has season tickets has tickets to see the second team. You have tickets at your disposal. And they play on the 24th of September. It's their final home game. And yes, they're in the playoffs. They clinched.
Yeah.
They clinched with their win.
That's the most important news I want to make a broadcast. And Mark is right. The win pushes them to 3rd place and they clinch a playoff spot. Now, for what I understand, the top 3 teams, I believe, get to pick their opponent. Huh. That's weird.
I don't remember how it was. I know it's only 7 teams that make the playoffs.
Right.
It's 1 through 7.
Yeah, the top 3 actually picks their opponent. Okay, we want this guy. I think that's a very dangerous. But their next
it depends
match,
who you pick.
Yeah, and their next match, of course, is next match is versus Toronto FC 2, and then they're all basically down there in 10th place. And then September 10th on Sunday, September 10th, they face on the top, the Eastern leading Crown Legacy of FC. And then they're back on Sunday on the 24th versus Philadelphia Union 2.
2 p.m.
2 p.m. And
2 p.m.
And I will be there. I will be there, because I'm sure that's my obligation to get down there. But
it's because it's 2 p.m. and then New Jersey Transit still runs at that hour.
Yeah, and so that I'll be able to make it there on time, hopefully, with me and stuff like that. But let's talk about predictions and last word. Okay, Wednesday night is going to be a match where let's put it this way: this is the match they need to have. Carlos Cano is going to have the game threat for that. Gentlemen, how do you see that match ending? And basically, to put it very bluntly, they need to win this game. Carlos, you up front. What's your final score on that match?
On Wednesday, I will say that they win 1-0. I think I feel like teams that are like the Red Bulls eventually at some point run into a goal. So maybe good old
Into a goal.
good old OG makes an appearance,
Oh my
perhaps,
God.
in
We
Massachusetts.
haven't had one yet.
What's they say? You know, if it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. That's basically what you're going with.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm going to go with 1-0, and I'm going to put cherry on top and say that OG makes an appearance.
Okay, and in Chester,
In Chester,
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's probably like a 2-0 loss. I mean, it's terrible. This is where we are.
This is where we are,
season,
right?
Where we're actively predicting losses because it's just very hard to be optimistic.
Yeah, thank you, John. That's right. First place team in the first place finishes are going to bye. The next two pick their opponent if they finish in the standings. That's kind of dangerous to me because if you pick the wrong squad, you find yourself out. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it should really go by seeding, but that's one of the quirks about that league, you know. So that's the way. Mark, you're up. First, we're going to talk about up in Foxborough, and then, of course, your pick for the game in Chester.
I think I said it earlier, and I'm going to stick with it. I think somehow, some way, we walk out of Foxborough with a 1-0 win. I don't know about own goal showing up. I mean, listen, stranger things have happened. I would tip my cap to Carlos if he was correct. I mean, I think we managed somehow to get a goal. You know, I mean, the ball bounces off somebody's, you know, whatever, and it goes in. I don't care if it's their player or our player, as long as we come home with a win. So I would say that's my prediction for New England. And the House of Horrors in Chester. I really don't even want to say this out loud, but I honestly I would not be surprised if we lose 3-1. I wouldn't. I would not be surprised if the guys just the tank's out of gas, our defense collapses, and they somehow put 3 in behind Cornell.
All right, my turn. Okay, I'm going to agree with you in this. This is what I'm hoping to see. Okay, on one game, and this is what I'm hoping I don't see in Philadelphia. What I'm hoping to see in Foxborough is a team that looked themselves into a mirror, saw how embarrassed they was on Saturday, and they're going to bring the fight to New England because they don't have a choice. These two games are summing up to be probably where the team will make the playoffs or not. So I'm hoping. So I'm going to agree with Mark. I want to see a 1-0 win. Okay, they're going to squeak this one out. They're going to play that team tough, doing whatever the case they got, to do to get a point one way or another. And I'm going to be bold on the one in Chester. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw. And the reason why I said it because they played Philly pretty tough almost to the end. They made one fatal mistake, and then basically Philly just burnt down the house with them in it with 2 goals late. And that's something you don't want to see, okay? I would be happy if they get out of there with a 1-1 draw, okay? Because a 3-point, road trip is better than 0, okay? If it's 6 points, well, we're talking about making the playoffs. If it's 3 points, we're at the precipice. Remember, everyone's going to be scoreboard watching these the next 2 games because everyone else is also going to be playing in these next 2 games. So it's not just us, these 2 teams, and everybody else sitting at home. Everyone's going to be, balling because of what they're doing is they're going to condense the schedule because October is coming at us fast and furious. There is one more international break before it's done, and then it's straight down the stretch to go to decision day. So that's how the schedule is setting up. So we're hoping that there will be a conference call, of course, next week with the coach tomorrow afternoon, 12:30. I'll be listening in to see what everyone else in the press pool will be literally peppering Mr. Lassane about questions for Wednesday night, how much of a big game that's going to be. We'll see how their attitude adjustment leading up to that. And, of course, Carlos Cano will be joining you guys, of course, on the game thread on Wednesday night. Who's got scheduled for Sunday? It's Bradley. Also got Sunday, of course, will be joined in progress by me. So that's where it's going to be fun. So, of course, we all invite you, of course, to join in the game threads because we put these guys to get these threads together for you guys. And, of course, when it's all said and done, we hope we have a happy recap or not, or a good one leading up, of course, on Monday night, hopefully before the break. So, as they say, that's it for now. All we have to do is hold our breath and see what happens from there. Wednesday night's game takes place at 30, and of course, the game in Chester is Sunday, and I believe that game is on Fox on FS1. So, of course, they will be taking a break from Apple. So, the fun continues. Let's see what type of team shows up on Wednesday night. That's going to be a very important game. For Carlos Cano, Mark Coates, and myself, Garry Redmond, I thank you guys so much for joining us. We will see you guys next week. Of course, Lon Ray Badmus will be joining us along with Miguel Nunez. Hopefully, the road trip will not be too bumpy because, as we know, he gets real agitated when there's back-to-back losses, and he loves to yell at people saying, "I told you so." We'll see how that turns out to be. So, for now, until next week, thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, good night and goodbye for now.